Shalom. I'm Messianic Rabbi Eric Walker, and welcome to this edition of Revealing Prophecy. In the past, we have shared news stories with you. However, I want to encourage you to begin your own search for the prophetically important stories of the day by expanding your own set of reliable sources. Many of our featured guests, such as Carl Gallups, Rabbi Zev Porat, Dr. Michael Heiser, Dr. Michael Lake, Dr. Jeffrey Johnson, Joe Newby, and more, all have a wealth of resources available to you to research. I encourage you to read the Middle Eastern news feeds and find trusted journalists who have their finger on the pulse of the prophetic as it unfolds around the world. We encourage you to visit ignitingnation.com for a full roster of live daily interviews and check out the Biblical Truth Library containing over 1,000 hours of rich biblical teachings. Download our new apps and subscribe to the Igniting a Nation YouTube channel, Apple TV, Roku, Android TV, and Amazon Fire channels to watch our great lineup of guest interviews. And now for today's monologue. Unless you have had your head buried in the sand, it is virtually impossible to miss the signs of an all-out assault on Christianity and everything that conservative, Bible-believing Christians stand for. The current questioning of Supreme Court nominee Amy Coney Barrett has revealed this assault in its laser focus on abortion, marriage equality, and LGBTQ rights. The tone and tenor of the questioning from the liberal left Democratic senators is aggressively defending these unbiblical principles to the degree that they have even used this forum to establish their position that a person is born gay or straight. In fact, Senator Cory Booker confronted her and basically forced her to correct her terminology to support their position. Earlier in an exchange with Senator Mazie Hirono from Hawaii, Judge Barrett apologized for her earlier comments about sexual preference regarding the LGBTQ community and rights. She said that she certainly didn't mean and would never mean to use a term that would offend the LGBTQ plus community, adding, "If I did, I greatly apologize for that." This is just a preview as what is already here in America, and it is an anti-Christian agenda. This is not a new issue since the passing of the Marriage Equality Act in 2015, but one that is at the very core of why one of the very largest mainstream denominations in the world is about to split. The United Methodist Church is imploding over the same-sex issue. The Baptist Church has announced new tolerant-friendly wording into their narrative, and the Pope has come out in support of global communism. Because Amy Coney Barrett is Catholic and adheres to the pro-life stance, she finds herself at odds with another self-defined devout Catholic, Nancy Pelosi, who has taken a polar opposite position on abortion and avidly fights for the rights of every woman to be able to terminate the life of a baby up to birth. Christianity is on trial in these hearings, and on the horizon looms legislation that will reach into the church and legislate whether it is lawful for a pastor to refuse to perform a same-sex marriage. They have already applied this to florists, bakers, wedding venues, and we are next on their hit list. This is not a conspiracy theory, it is real and escalating. The decision to allow liquor stores and casinos to remain open and close churches during the pandemic, and calling a liquor store an essential service and a church a non-essential service, further illustrates the disdain growing at the highest levels of government toward the faith community. By limiting the size of a church gathering or denying their ability to assemble has had long-term impact. According to several major Christian research groups, at least 1/3 of those who were prohibited from attending church since March have no plans to return. This has been a part of the agenda of the left for decades to silence the voices of those of us who maintain a biblically conservative stance. The very fact that a pastor in California was arrested and tried for defying the order to remain closed clearly demonstrates that Christianity is under attack and assault in America. During this shutdown, churches were ordered to close, and once reopened, the amount of people in attendance was set by the government. However, protests were permitted to gather without restriction to numbers, social distancing, or the wearing of masks. Clearly, there's a strong move against the church with the full intent to muzzle the voices of those who adhere to a biblical worldview and are opposed to the ongoing legislation of sin. This censorship is in full force on numerous social media platforms, and many ministries who have been vocal on social media have had their accounts suspended for 30 days, and videos have disappeared from a number of video platforms. This form of censorship is just the tip of the iceberg. The cancel culture has been documented by such stories as appeared on CBN News with this headline: Instagram censors worship leader's praise post, labeling his faith false and harmful. The article further states the role of faith and religion in America continues to lose ground as the battle over what is offensive or fair becomes overshadowed by those who want to silence biblical themes and voices. This is Christian persecution. And for those who have seen it in other countries, believing it cannot happen in free America, are now seeing that it is happening and America is no longer free. The Washington Examiner reported that Pastor Andrew Brunson said he was astounded at the speed with which the U.S. is imploding, and that he predicts persecution of Christians will follow. Brunson is the evangelical Presbyterian missionary to Turkey who spent 2 years in a Turkish prison. He was falsely accused of being part of a failed coup attempt against that country's president, Recep Tayyip Erdogan. The charges against Brunson resulting in his unjust imprisonment triggered a war of words and diplomatic struggles between Turkey and the U.S. government. North Carolina U.S. Senator Tom Tillis visited Brunson in prison and diligently worked and advocated for the missionary's release from prison. Since Brunson was not only an American citizen but a North Carolinian, the Christian Action League initiated and lobbied for a resolution from the North Carolina House and a senatorial statement from the state Senate calling on Turkish officials to free Brunson. The House passed the resolution unanimously, and 48 out of 50 Senate members signed the senatorial statement. Currently, the North Carolina Senate does not adopt resolutions, but only senatorial statements. Brunson made his remarks about the coming of persecution for American Christians during an interview at the Washington Conservative Summit held every year by the Centennial Institute at Colorado Christian University. According to the Examiner, Brunson said, "First of all, I think it's coming to the United States that there will be persecution. I was isolated for a few years, and coming back to the States was almost like coming back to a different country in many ways. And I'm astounded at the speed with which I think the U.S. is imploding. There are any number of issues where it seems that it's no longer enough for a person of faith to get along with, or to serve, or to treat well someone they disagree with. And I think that the political business, media, celebrity class, and also academia, it seems that there's much more of a demand that people approve of, that they validate, that they celebrate things that they actually disagree with. One might argue that persecution is now alive and well in America with the purging of Christianity from the government, the muzzling of state officials, employees and appointees who are Christian, the public attacks on churches and Christian businesses, the media and Hollywood's disparaging of anything Christian in almost every film they make. The kind of persecution Andrew Brunson endured in Turkey hasn't arrived yet. Nevertheless, as he suggests, it appears as though it might be right around the corner. As frightening as that prospect may seem, and no one in their right mind desires it, persecution could have a positive effect on true religion. For example, Bishop Polycarp, an older man at the time, was put to death for his faith in Smyrna in the year 167. He had tried very hard to escape arrest, but was eventually tracked down. When apprehended, he was ordered to curse Christ. Polycarp replied, 86 years have I served him, and he has done me nothing except good. How then can I curse my Lord and Savior? At that profession, his abductors sentenced him to death. Wood was gathered and piled in an open square, and the white-haired old man was made to mount the large heap. But when they sought to fasten him to the stake, he told them, No, leave me thus. He who has strengthened me to encounter the flames will give me the power also to stand firm at the stake. And in this manner, Polycarp suffered a martyr's death. Persecution has a way of making a genuine follower of Jesus Christ, an individual of sturdy and profound faith. Other Christians died as Polycarp did during the 2nd century, and their heroism had a positive outcome in making Christians of that time nobler, purer, and vigorous in their walk with God. The persecuted became, as Tertullian said, a fan which cleanses the Lord's threshing floor. Moreover, Christianity began to sweep the land. To quote Tertullian again, we conquer in dying, we go forth triumphant at the very moment we seem subdued. The oftener we are mowed down, the more do we grow in number. The blood of Christians is the seed of the church. Someone once wisely said, be careful for what you pray, you might just get it. Quite some time now, many faithful Christians have been praying earnestly for revival in the church and a spiritual awakening to sweep America. The answer to such prayers may be on its way and coming via an unexpected means: persecution. And that, my friends, is this week's edition of Revealing Prophecy. This program, along with Revealing the Bible, are added to the Biblical Truth Library. Visit ignitinganation.com and check out the Biblical Truth Library and our guest lineup of our daily broadcast of Revealing the Truth. Follow us online through Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, where you can catch up on over 1,800 interviews and never miss out on any of our great guest interviews. Your comments and questions are always welcome, and you can use the contact form found on ignitinganation.com. Don't forget our regular live broadcasts are Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Central Time. You can now watch a second channel on ignitinganation.com/live to watch a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day feed of some of our featured guests. Until we see you right back here for the next edition of Revealing the Truth, we thank you for watching and bless you with Shalom.